In this video, we'll be going through some of the functionalities of the Inventory Freshness app. In the food and beverage industry, it is common practice to consider freshness requirements while shipping items to customers and receiving items from vendors. The Inventory Freshness app ensures that outbound products heading to customers and inbound products arriving from vendors do not exceed a certain number of days from their production date. This is done by specifying production dates of inventory and creating freshness codes at the item, vendor, customer, and combined level to ensure corresponding internal and customer freshness requirements are met. To use the inventory freshness functionality, we must first create and assign inventory freshness codes. To do so, we would open up the inventory freshness codes page, and here we have some codes already preset, but to create a new code, we'd click on New, and we would fill in the fields as necessary. Now we can take these codes and assign them to different items, customers, vendors, or combinations of item customer or item vendor. For example, if I wanted to assign a code to a combination of item vendor, I would first open up the item card. Here, for example, sausage. I'd click on Related, Purchases, Vendor Inventory Freshness Codes. And here I would fill in the vendor number field and the inventory freshness code field. For this situation, we've attached the Fresh 10 code, which is a 10-day freshness requirement, to vendor 9100, which is the vendor meat producer, and this is for the item sausage. Now, in addition to freshness codes, we'd have to set up our item tracking. To do so, we would go to our item tracking codes page. And let's say, for example, this code right here, we would scroll down to the miscellaneous fast tab, and we would make sure that the use production dates option is selected and turned on. Selecting this option allows us to specify that items using this item tracking code can have a production date. Now we can take a look at some of the applications of inventory freshness through some scenarios. We'll take a look at a sales order and a purchase order. Firstly, for a sales order, and here we have one for the customer, the meat shop, and it is for 100 cases of the item sausage. If we scroll all the way to the right, we can see that the inventory freshness code Fresh 10, which represents a 10-day freshness requirement, has already been applied. Furthermore, if we take a look at our item tracking, we can see the production date field. This field is a unique field that has been added through the Inventory Freshness app, and so we can see that the production date of this quantity of sausage is set to September 1st. Since we have a 10-day freshness requirement, this means that the latest acceptable delivery date of this quantity of sausage will be September 11. Now here we can see that our planned delivery date in this scenario is set to September 15. As a result, if we were to post and ship, we'll get an error message saying that the inventory freshness requirements have not been met. This is of course because the planned delivery date of September 15 is beyond the freshness requirement. However, if we were to change this planned delivery date from September 15 to, for example, September 8, now if we were to post and ship, we can see that the shipment is completed. In addition, we can invoice, and the invoice is completed as well. Now let's take a look at a purchase order. Here we have a purchase order for the vendor meat producer, and it is for 100 cases of the item breakfast sausage. If we scroll all the way to the right, again, we can see that the Fresh 10 code, the Fresh 10 inventory freshness code, has automatically been applied, and this represents a 10-day freshness requirement. If we look at our item tracking, we can see once again that the production date of this quantity of breakfast sausage is September 1st. Now, for the purposes of purchasing and receiving, rather than looking at the planned receipt date, we're going to be looking towards the posting date. Here we can see that the posting date is set to September 15, and this falls outside of the 10-day freshness requirement. As we have a 10-day freshness requirement and our production date is September 1st, the latest posting date that would be acceptable would be September 11. Now, in the situation, if we were to post and receive, we'll receive an error message saying that the inventory freshness requirements are not met. However, if we were to change this posting date to fall within the 10-day freshness requirement, for example, September 5th, now if we were to receive the quantity of breakfast sausage, we can see it's completed and invoice. Now, in terms of both sales orders and purchasing, if we had warehouse requirements for either of these functionalities, we would use warehouse shipments or warehouse receipts, and they would follow the same capabilities, in which the production date and the freshness requirements would have to be met in order for the warehouse receipt or warehouse shipment to be able to be posted. This is also true for picking. If picking is required, the system would prevent picking altogether if the freshness requirements were not met. The Inventory Freshness app helps manufacturers and distributors to validate inbound and outbound activities against customized freshness requirements prior to picking, shipping, and receiving. Doing so helps to reduce the risk of inadequate inventory and customer dissatisfaction.